Good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform with me, Samson Ladi Anyanini. This morning we go to Apeatse, where there was the explosion that has claimed lives and rendered hundreds homeless. It does look like some $5 million to $6 million will be available. Rebuilding homes and lives, avoiding a recurrence. What role is government playing and the entities named in the explosion, Maxam, and the rest of them. At the Ghana airport, that's the Kotoka International Airport, private jets are not flying. Why? We're looking at the airport's situation versus the Magdan and asking whether this is a bold private enterprise or difficult struggle in state capture enterprise. The E-levy, it's bringing a lot of trouble. Is it worsening hardship? Set to do? Is it damaging a party? As it does appear, one member of parliament may take the fall in the NPP. Is it deepening the divide among the MDC and NPP parliamentarians? Has it even taken us to the courts and seeking to increase mistrust for the courts? Is coup eminent in Ghana? Well, somebody has been arrested over same. We'll be right back to deal with the vex matters. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. And is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strongest group and closest partner, MTN everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert and Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care services provider for 31 years. Edlom Housing, where spacious homes cost less. DBS Industries, we truly are your roof expert. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows. Rehoboth Properties, quality housing for all. And here is Samson's stake. I title it, Checking and Publishing Facts. That's basic core journalism. I must sound like a broken record on this subject, but we must keep talking, educating, and debating until we get rid of the few reckless guys giving the media profession bad press. We must not rest until we secure better protection of free speech and media freedoms. This week, I was in court for a journalist. On Monday, I must be in court for 4 journalists. So, I defend and fight for journalism and media freedoms. There is such great joy and pride working for journalists and media entities that uphold the highest professional and ethical standards. Practicing independent, fearless, credible, and critical journalism actually require the discipline of keeping to the rules of the game. We often like to cite foreign journalists and media when talking about standards. But some of the very best are right here in Ghana. The Fourth Estate of the Media Foundation for West Africa does investigative and research journalism, painstakingly gathering the hard facts, including by RTI request, verifying and thoroughly analyzing information before publishing them. Yes, media will make mistakes because it's human beings that run them. They get sued, and sometimes we go begging for forgiveness for journalists. And sometimes even that may come with cost. Some demand hefty or modest amounts as compensation or punishment for the reputational damage. It's difficult to rebuild that. In fact, a journalist, one reckless act has collapsed an entire media organization and put the owners into debt and poverty. Just one reckless act of one journalist. Like any other profession, you will encounter people without principle in the media. Some are hired partisans. Some engage in criminal blackmail and extortion. And some are simply ignorant, yet arrogant, strong, yet wrong. So often. The consensus among media watchers is that Akufo-Addo's government has a terrible free press record, starting with the decision to shut down radio stations opposed to it. Don't tell me Radio Gold and Radio XYZ suffered for not keeping up with the regulatory and authorization renewal payments. It would not have resorted to shutdowns for stations sympathetic to it. The regulator and those in charge know for a fact that there was the opportunity to give them room to make amends and stay in business. In those situations, the law is not only enforced by shutdowns, and that's why other equally guilty stations were not dealt with in same fashion. The apparent and near default resort to sections 207 and 208 of the Criminal Offences Act by the state, instead of allowing recourse to the civil tort of defamation by affected individuals, may smack of a veiled revival of criminal libel, which we repealed in July 2001 under Nana Akufo-Addo as Attorney General. But why cry oppression of free speech and free press if all you specialize in the name of journalism is publication of false news, outright lies, barefaced spirited insults, abuse and scurrilous abuse of political opponents, judges, and almost everybody you disagree with? We will fight trumped up charges against critical journalists, but what have arrest over suspected private criminal acts got to do with attack on media freedoms? If your private conduct is criminal and you are caught, why cry press freedom is under attack? If you hand the microphone to someone who blames her depravities on relapses as though she is the only sufferer of the condition, and as if there was ever a 24/7 all year round relapse state for bipolar sufferers. I mean, I can't vouch for anyone, but if you hand her the mic to destroy reputations and marriages without first checking with those she accuses. You are rather undermining free press by neglecting to uphold the very basic standards and ethics of journalism. I was at the police, and this woman was invited because she had accused a number of people, claiming Samia Wuku and Kujo Yankson had information given to him suggesting that she would be killed. She was asked right in her face, and she admitted that no such thing was told her. I was learning for the first time that Samia Wuku had conversation with her only since 2017. There has never been any contact, and it must have been just once. And she admitted all of that. You host her in your studio, allow her to spew all sorts of things on people and damage their reputations and marriages. You don't even bother to verify and give the others the opportunity. You are a media owner or manager. When was the last time you organized some training for your staff, especially those who did not attend journalism school? You're a journalist who thrives on politicians hailing you, even where you admit in your privacy that you got it wrong. What kind of a journalist are you? But whatever offensive conduct put up by a journalist, it is unconstitutional and criminal to assault them. Dear IGP, your men assaulted a Connect FM producer. While you have committed to institute disciplinary action against them, please put them before the court as swiftly as you do for others. Read my take for more on the few journalists undermining press freedom. We'll be right back to deal with the matters we are canvassing for you this morning. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. My guest to help us do this discussion over the next 3 hours or so, Samuel Abujinapo, MP Damongo and Minister Lands and Natural Resources, and you certainly know why. He is a part of the panel. Samuel Nete George is MP Ningo Prampram constituency. Kofi Bentel is lawyer and Senior Vice President Imani Africa. Hassan Sulemana Tampuli is MP Gushongo and Deputy Minister for Transport. Dr. Bright Opong-Afum is lecturer, mining and environment consultant, University of Mines and Technology, UMAT. But as you may be aware now, sometime late in the night yesterday, it was all over the place that one of the Fix the Country conveners, Mr. Oliver Mawuse Barker-Vormawor, had been abducted. That's how some of the Fix the Country conveners put it, had been abducted by people said to be national security officers. Upon his arrival at the airport, Kutuka International Airport, in the evening around 4 thereabout, and by 5 they had picked him up, and that's at around 12 o'clock, 12 midnight or thereafter 1 in the morning, at dawn, there was no news of his whereabouts. The police have issued a statement and say that man arrested for threatening a coup. Okay, so he announced that he's going to have a coup. So, number one, the police say that Mr. Oliver Mawuse Barker-Vormawor has been arrested by the Tema Regional Police Command following a post he made, that's on Facebook, allegedly on a social media platform to the effect that he would stage a coup himself if the E-levy bill is passed by Parliament. The post contained a clear statement of intent with a possible will to execute a coup in his declaration of intent to subvert the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. 3, he will be arraigned. Okay, we normally say he will be arraigned before court, but it should be he will be arraigned on Monday, 14th of February, 2022. We continue to call on the good people of Ghana to avoid making pronouncements that may lead to a breach of the peace of the country, as any such act contravene the laws of the country. And this is signed by DCOP Kwesi Ofori, Director General, Public Affairs. If we get him, we'll ask him a few questions for you, because the conveners of Fix the Country and many on social media are asking why was he picked up for so long a time? There was no news about him. And then his other, people in the Fix the Country went about talking about him being abducted and the rest of them. We will also try to make contact with some of his lawyers to speak briefly to them about what is happening, where he is now, and what is expected. Thank you very much. And thank you to my guest for making the time to join us this morning.
Pleasure's mine.
Right. Kofi, good morning. All right. Yes, we can hear you now.
Good.
Great. Okay, so where do we start? You want to make a minute or two comment on this arrest?
Who should go first?
You.
Right, okay, so Samson, we understand that the business of securing the state must be done, but we also understand that there is something which I call the downward political spiral. And this downward political spiral, across regimes, you see it. If you just study, or watch how politics and politicians and political parties and people in power behave, you can easily detect it. It is accompanied by a period where generally there is abuse of power. You have a situation where politicians or people in leadership become tone deaf. They develop this hubris. They believe they can do everything with the power of the state. You have a harassment of the media generally. And I hear you when you say some people really are committing crimes with the media, but you get this generalized harassment of media. And then you get a sledgehammer reaction to every little thing that itches them or that irritates them. And I think that our friends in power should be wary of this phenomenon, because I am seeing the downward political spiral. You have a situation where somebody makes a post and you understand what he's talking about, and you drop on him, you detain him, all right? You start arresting journalists all over the place. And I'm not saying some people don't deserve to be arrested. And you have tone deafness. Look at how much stress this country is going through over E-levy. All right, what is it? To the extent where somebody is saying the country will perish if we don't have E-levy. That's the kind of attitude you get when you are in a downward political spiral. So please, it's not about arresting Oliver or a journalist or whatever it is. I think our leaders must be a bit more reflective.
So what are you saying? They say they're arresting him on the comment he made that said, quote, if this E-levy passes after this cake bullshit, let me say it, I will do the coup myself, useless army. Yes, of course, he has come to explain what he meant by coup, which he meant that it's a legal suit. He says it's a legal suit that, together with some lawyers, they had gotten ready. If it passes, they will go to court to try and stop it. And it didn't mean literally, but it's a comment that many have taken the view that it's not right.
I agree with you that we also should be minded. We are all commenting and saying things. We should be minded about the words we use. But does that warrant the sledgehammer approach of arresting the guy, showing him where power lies, detaining him for this time? And I'm saying, look across regimes, look across dictatorships, look across political power, when it is wielded by people who are on a downward spiral, you will see these things. What stops a CID from going to Oliver Barker and asking them, please clarify what you said? What stops them from doing it quietly? What stops them from, being a bit decorous about it and not reacting the same way that we are seeing? And this is just one. Okay, you just
what stops them from arresting him, putting him before court for him to explain himself in court?
That's the point. The point is that's a sledgehammer effect. If somebody makes a Facebook post, which could mean 4 different things, and for that reason you spend the resources of state to arrest him, detain him, put him before court, when you know that really it's not going to go anywhere, I think it is one of the marks of a downward political spiral. You are spending too much energy on things that you should not be spending that much energy on.
All right.
And I'm saying this is just one of many things. Look at how much stress we are going through. The tone deafness, the hubris, we will pass it. No matter what you say, we will pass it. And all those things. I think our friends should watch it.
Yeah, we are dealing with the E-levy, so you hold on there. Yes, Sam George, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, very good morning to our viewers and listeners. I think that it's just unfortunate where we find ourselves, especially giving, and I just want to quote exactly what President Akufo-Addo said at an awards dinner on the evening of May 3rd, 2018, to mark the World Press Freedom World Press Freedom Day in Accra here. He said, I will say again, that I much prefer the noisy, boisterous, sometimes scurrilous media of today to the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryears. Now, you juxtapose his words to the actions of state operatives under his watch, and you see a complete disconnect. I mean, Mawuse Barker-Vormawor, Kwabena Bobia-Ansah, Mensa Thompson, the list goes on and on and on. If it is not the state arresting, I mean, look at what happened to the modern Ghana journalist. Up till today, we do not have a resolution of that matter where national security our national security appears to be in the business of abduction and kidnapping. I mean, and that's a cause of worry. Okay, journalists are picked up, they are brutalized. Their assets are taken, their laptops that were seized, nobody knows what happened to it. Look at what happened to Caleb Kuda and Zoe Abu Baidu. I mean, you have a national security apparatus that ought to be acting on intelligence, actionable intelligence, but appears to be very reactionary. They are right now reacting to Facebook postings, and I mean, we live in dangerous times, and for a country that has prided itself as one that had a free press, something the list said. But you see, at times, some of our friends in the media themselves have encouraged and emboldened the actions of state actors. I'll say this why. Ahmed Swale was killed. It's been over 3 years. Ahmed Swale's employers, or the team with which he worked, how much demand, or what kind of demands are they making of government to even see a proper investigation into that matter? Apart from the occasional anniversary commentary that is made, have we seen a concerted effort by the media? Something, your platform is huge. Imagine if every day, every Saturday, before Newsfile started, and across the country, all the news talk shows, every morning, demanded action of government, even for 1 week. Look at what you did with the Galamsey thing. When you had a concerted media effort, you got government to move. What have you done in memory of your own colleague, Ahmed Swale? So these are some of the challenges.
So because you put him on the spot, let me tell you this. Because as a practicing lawyer, I understand how the investigations may go.
Sure.
And sometimes the police have told us over and again that they are on it. They have 1 or 2 difficulties, and they keep announcing when Anas and his group go to knock on their doors to ask, and then the GJA also continues to hold a series of meetings over this matter. So on that score, I feel that it will be unfair on my part to be demanding every week that there should be action on Ahmed Swale.
Well, I'm just saying that if we raised the temperature, yes, I'm not saying nothing has been done. I'm just saying that, are we doing the best that we can? And Kofi spoke about tone deafness.
Right.
I mean, it thrives in an era where people feel comfortable and think that they can abuse power without any serious repercussions. So I think that we're on a dangerous trajectory, and those who hold the reins of state need to pull the brakes and say...
But Oliver's comment for which he's been arrested and is in detention, you think there's nothing wrong with it. Kokwanyido, who was arrested over a similar thing.
I would not hold brief for Oliver. I mean, in the charge, you see, responsibility, rights and freedoms come with responsibility. So yes, you have the right and freedom to free speech, but you must be responsible in your speech. Because you see, in the atmosphere we find ourselves, mentioning and using a word like a coup, that he will stage a coup, he's giving his own interpretation of it. What's the purposive interpretation?
Coup makers don't make an announcement before.
Absolutely. and again, you see, it's just like the kitchen knife coup makers who are currently in court. Okay, the doctor and his team who have been. I hold the view that at times the state overreacts, because you need to ask yourself, does this person have what it takes to successfully execute a coup? You get it? Because I mean, people can. That's
a key question we ask when Kokwanyido.
Absolutely, the exuberance of social media and all. I think it should be a lesson for Mawuse Barker-Vormawor that he must be measured in his commentary. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, DCOP Kwesiofori, for joining us on Newsfile. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good. Good to have you. So, where is Oliver this morning? And you really believe that he intends to stage a coup, and he has what it takes to stage a coup?
Thank you very much. Oliver is in police custody, and Tema Regional Police Command is investigating what he posted on his Facebook page. We are all aware that we are in a democratic environment, back with a constitution. And the constitution, and get all of us, to uphold it and its values. And for an individual to post, among other things, calling for unlawful alternative of the very system, with that intention made loud and clear, the police will definitely have a word with him. The police would like to investigate. And this is what we are doing. And I would like to say that he is in lawful custody, subject to investigation.
Right. So when you pick up his post, you must have picked up the subsequent posts that he made, including the one that he said that Fix the Country has reached an agreement in principle with the International Lawyers Project. They have agreed to team up with our legal team by assisting us with the input of leading tax experts and international lawyers to bring a solid lawsuit against the E-levy if it ever gets passed through Parliament. Huge coup. Or that one itself is also another, treasonable statement.
I would like to state that what is before us is what we're investigating. And during investigations, it is a wide process, and the investigation may look at all those things you're talking about. But for now, we are dealing with that post, which threatens the constitutional base and general security of our dear country. This is what we're talking about.
Right. And you are certain that you will put him before court on Monday?
Yes. Police, we are determined to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you are not giving yourself the opportunity.
The court is a fair ground for all parties, and I believe that is the way to go.
Right. So I wanted to ask you, if you are not giving yourself the opportunity that during your interrogation, he may explain to you as he has done many times on his same Facebook wall, to your satisfaction that the intention is not a coup d'etat, but an E-levy coup by a lawsuit, and that you may examine him as an individual, as an academic, and come to the view that he doesn't have what it takes to stage a coup, and therefore there will not be the need to put him before court?
The police investigative team is a competent team, and they will listen to him, hear him.
All right.
And whatever opinion or whatever interpretation he want to give may be allowed to put in writing. But as I said, for now, we're investigating his intention and what he wrote regarding an unlawful alternative to what is, and that is what we are investigating.
Okay. Questions are being raised now about previous similar such comments, which you arrested people like Kwaku Anyidoho. What became of that?
What I will say is the police will continue to investigate things that threaten our democracy, our security, as individuals and in a collective manner. And that is what we are doing. And one thing is we have opened doors. We are speaking to you and others, and the police will continue to work in tandem with all institutions to enable us to enjoy a stable and a more secure country.
Right. Are you contemplating processing for bail? Because you are. It seems like you are waiting until Monday for a court to take that decision rather than the police.
The Tema Regional Police Command may initiate decisions that are appropriate and in line with good practice.
Okay. Thank you so very much. DCOP Kwesi Fori is the head of public affairs of the Ghana Police Service. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing insights into what is happening presently as far as Oliver's situation is concerned. Right. Okay, so let's take a quick break. We'll return to go straight into one of the issues that we are looking at this morning, the question of the E-levy and the troubles that it is bringing. So you know an MP is in trouble now, and it's suggested by the minority that this is intended to reduce the numbers of the minority in Parliament so that E-levy can be passed. The majority also have a problem within their camp, where one of their members, Adwoa Safo Sarah, Adwoa Safo for the Dom Kwabenya constituency, is accused of deliberately sabotaging the party by not availing himself, the party and government, by not availing herself in Parliament to be part of the processes. Because, as you know, in this Parliament, one is very important. We'll be right back.
Say, maybe me PC, one yes, and then make us ensure boy, I'll say, boy, yes, a pampam. Yeah, MP for your Parliament, year 138. Meka, Honorable Speaker of Honorable Deputy Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, can wear 138, and your majority caucus. Majority caucus, 137 AMP before. And yeah, before the BR 136, your Parliament, back with your showma. Now, and before Kasa, no, there's something and I'm chair, and then make kind of play in your playing fan. And then Monday, you ra Adwoa Safo, you know Parliament.
What's too quiet now?
The baby or one the other him.
Such and some will wait for one more.
And no, I mean clearly her intentions and the behavior and the push and say of sabotage MPP. And this thing It's something that I am speaking on authority because it's also. And also they are sending an change
because reading make kind the compare cocaine. We have say a binomo. I say, almost at the almost seat na I bargaining chip. You don't do this to me. I'm not coming. I'm not pushing government.
138 cost. 138.
For how long? And as a member of parliament, no,
for some time. I mean, just your panic chow. Just say, your problems are you come as a political party, no, and as a government, no. Maybe doing that I just have for our member of parliament for the cabinet. When you be free, or a pet. It's not say, yeah, I can go parliament. And I'm saying, then you don't bring out things like the way you are talking about. What you are talking about now. You just told me, say, I
is quoted as saying
it is a whole person would be a blue chip and a blackmail party, no. Say, me per se, but say, Mamma, majority. Deputy majority leader, I mean, my parliament.
But some were very articulate, very vibrant, very active and intelligent.
As a party, no.
Deputy majority leader. I think
Alexander.
Is he not doing well?
He's doing exceptionally well. But the point is that political party, a friend, the FPP, no, Edu and Mara was a call a speed. So one person can.
It is obvious that the desperate Akufo-Addo government, the Attorney General Office and the Police Administration are acting in bad faith to get an unfair advantage in Parliament for the Nana Akufo-Addo Bawumia government in its unbridled quest to pass the unpopular, insensitive E-levy, which remains a major disincentive to the development of our digital economy and an apparent disregard for their own quest for a cash-light economy. We don't want to believe, neither do we want to accept, that they want to use the courts to tilt the balance of power. We simply will not support E-levy, nothing more. Yeah. We shall continue with all our might to resist these desperations of the despotic Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo regime and those use of crude Machiavellian tactics to reduce our numbers without respect to the rule of law and respect to our court hierarchy and its authority as an independent, neutral arbiter on these matters.
Which were really bad times where we all slept at the petrol station. So that's indication that, you really need to get up and talk about it, because we cannot, as a nation that deserves so much more, come to this level.
I'm working like a bull and I'm paying my taxes. The government got to work like a bull as well and make sure that my road is fixed, that I have electricity, that I have water. That is their job. It is not for me to tell the president how to fix the economy. If he didn't know how to fix the economy, why did he run for office?
Right. So, Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta, the Minister of Finance, you heard him just a while ago, but that is not recent. That is when the NDC was in power and there was Occupy Flagstaff House. And he was in the demonstration and spoke about the need for Ghanaians to demonstrate and to demand what they deserve. So clearly he must understand what is going on now. And before he spoke, you also saw the demonstration, Yentua demonstration organized by the NDC with other support from other parties and organizations. Then you heard Haruna Idrisu, the minority leader, talking about the problems that the James Jachi Kwesing is going through, particularly being hauled before the court and for criminal process being instituted against him, being a ploy by the government to reduce their numbers in the House, which he says they will resist. Is that what it really is? And then you hear the NPP MP who says that Adjasafo is clearly sabotaging them. Anytime she has to show up in the House, they have to beg her before she does so. As you know, she has been on leave for a while. The president approved an extension of her leave, was it? Yeah. So she's been away for a long time. Now, let's get to look at these matters. Let me begin from the studio. And we are also joined by Gary Nimako Mafo, who is member Legal Constitutional Committee of the New Patriotic Party. So I speak to the two quote-unquote politicians. Then we will hear Kofi Bento after that. So, Sam George, a number of issues have come up on the back of this. Now we have celebrities tweeting all over the place and criticizing that we don't need E-levy. Almost too many people are now talking that they don't need it, but the government is going on town hall meetings to explain to people so that it could be passed. And now we have these issues of, the troubles in Parliament as far as the MPs are concerned, and matters of court being brought in as well.
Well, talking about town hall meetings, my condolences go to the family of a military officer, Kofi Zuwonu, who lost his life whilst on active military duty on returning from the Tamale town hall meetings. Was involved in an accident. It appears the cost of this E-levy goes beyond just economic cost. Even human life is being lost. We need to be clear. Persons of social, with some social capital, are all beginning to speak. You refer to them as celebrities, beginning to speak up and have their voices heard. But like Kofi said, we have a government that is tone deaf, that is bent on proceeding with imposing this executive pickpocket tax, what is a taxation Ponzi scheme, basically to steal from the pockets of Ghanaians. You can't put it anywhere else, but unfortunately, because of the inability of them to marshal public support for this, and the resistance of the minority or opposition NDC in Parliament, and their inability to even do their own housekeeping. Okay? Look, the MP for, is it Drubbing? New Drubbing or something, Ochebefi, Michael, is putting this at the doorstep of Adjasafo. We've been in the chamber. The last time the speaker, we thought we were going to take the E-levy was about 2 weeks ago. The speaker was in the house till 6 p.m. It was not only Adjasafo who wasn't around. On that, there have been times when 3 of their members have not been available. There have been times where 2 of their members have not been available. You see, they are so incompetent at managing the economy that even passing a bill to help them manage the economy as they claim, they're incompetent in taking the processes through. They know when they want to lay the business. The business of the house is not laid by the NDC. It's by the MPP. They know that on this day, they want to bring the E-levy to the House. Yet they are unable to marshal their numbers to the House before. That Friday, you had the Air Force plane literally hobnobbing regional airports, picking MPs. It flew from Accra, went to Kumasi, from Kumasi went to Tamale, from Tamale went to Takrady, and brought them to Accra. It became a trotro. The CASA.
Really?
Yes. And that is why that day we're supposed to start sitting at 10. It was moved to 12. From 12, it was moved to 2.
We are not able to independently verify what
Very
you
well.
said.
This is my comment. I get it. As a Thompson.
But is that allowed that the state, heli will be used running around?
We need to ask them. They'll tell you they're picking up regional ministers who are also members of Parliament. Okay? Now the question is that supposed to be the standard practice? Okay? But that's what we saw. That's what we saw. And even with that, they still couldn't have their 138. Look, their 137 plus 1. It is a mark of the ability or efficiency to lead. You have two leaders in the House, Chairman Sambonsu, Haruna Idrisu. Both of them command 137. Then there's the independent candidate. But both leaders command 137. Haruna Idrisu has repeatedly, and the NDC, have repeatedly had our 137 in the chamber. Chairman Sambonsu.
We understand that even when some of you are sick, you don't want to, attend to the hospital.
I didn't know Afenyo Makin had become a physician. But physician, heal thyself. There are more sick people on their ends. You heard Osei Chairman Sambonsu himself complain that they had to make one of their members leave a newborn baby in the hospital to rush there. Who is not attending to their newborn baby? It's not an NDC MP, it's an MPP MP.
Yeah, why are you putting them through this?
Why do they want to impose such hardship on Ghanaians? Why? They are putting themselves through this. Oh, we are doing our job. Why? You want NDC MPs not to come to Parliament? We shouldn't come to Parliament. We are paying a salary to be in Parliament. We are in Parliament. We are doing our job. If we don't come to Parliament to you, bash us that you pay us a salary, we don't come. We are coming to you, say we should travel. I mean, I can't get this. But you see, it is this desperation. They are so incompetent, they can't manage the economy. They have run the economy into a ditch. And now to even their own so-called solution to get it kick-started, they are so incompetent they can't bring 137 people together. They can't bring 137 people to sit in the chamber behind Chairman Sambonsu. So if they are so incompetent to manage putting 137 people together, you think they're competent enough to fix the mess?
The allegation now is that Ajasafu is using this as a bait or sort of a bargaining chip for something. That's the allegation. Her side have disputed them, and now there are calls that she should even be dismissed by the party, and upon that, there would then be a by-election for her replacement. What do you make of those comments?
That's the MPP's own malaise. Not my business. But you see, the only thing, it's not my business what their sickness is and what their problems are. But it gives me cause for worry. Worry that this is the crop of people leading this country. This is the crop of people who we have to accommodate for another 2 years and 10 months. We need to live with this incompetence, this cluelessness, okay, that they can't even put their own house in order. Yet we expect them to take care of the whole country. This is just the biggest evidence yet of the mismanagement of the country. They can't manage 137 people, and they're telling you they will manage 33 million. Okay, this is evidence of how poor they have been in leadership. It's a crisis of leadership. They clearly have not managed their caucus well. Their caucus is so disintegrated that right now they are literally begging NDC MPs not to come to Parliament. And if we say we will come to Parliament because we are patriotic citizens who want to do our job that we are paid a salary for, then they will use the courts. But again, on this platform, I want to make a humble appeal to the courts. You remain the last bastion of hope for the ordinary Ghanaian. As Parliament, the minority, the opposition NDC in Parliament, continues to fly high the flag of the legislature in holding an aberrant executive in order and in check, we expect our judiciary to live up to the billing as well and not acquiesce to the demands of an overpampered, spoiled executive that thinks that they must have their say and have their way. You must look them in the face and say to them...
Haven't you come to a point where you should take a back seat and tell yourself that as a minority, this issue has divided this parliament so badly, it has led to making our parliament the laughing stock, on the globe. And it's led to so many other things that the better thing to do is to sit down and talk and perhaps make compromises rather than these entrenched positions. And now bringing in criminal prosecution of one of your members and suggesting that that is only deliberate by the government in an attempt to get him out of the house.
Something. I agree with you that in governing a state, compromises have to be made. It may not be a very popular position by many people, but I hold the view that to have a state governed, compromises have to be made. And that's why, for me, at a certain point in time, I'm sure you heard about a group of 10 on both sides. I was part of it. Let's sit down, let's have a conversation. Let's save the republic. But you can only have compromise when you have two groups of people who are willing to shift their position. We went into that meeting. I know our leadership had also gone into meetings and said to them, what exactly is the problem that we face as a country? Revenue shortfalls. We need to mop up revenue locally to meet government expenditure. So you're looking to plug a hole of about 7 billion using the E-levy. Fantastic. We go back to our constituency, which is the larger Ghanaian public, and they say to us, we already are overburdened. We appreciate the need for you to close the hole, but we don't think this is the way to go about it. So we go back to government and say, look, you want to introduce this tax. Fantastic. You've actually gotten the telcos, who are a major player, to agree that they are dropping by 0.25. And even that one is questionable. From a technical perspective, I challenge it because I say Vodafone and Airtel Tigo charge 0%.
That's right.
So if you say they are reducing by 0.25, are they going to charge negative 2.5? No. That's for those who charge. It is only one telco. MTN. It's only MTN. So again, that deals with just one telco. But given they have a lion's share of the market, so fine. They have made a concession. What concession is government making? If it's about revenue, we have put on the table revenue measures that can rake in 10 billion. So that's about 40% more than what government is looking for. Government is looking for 6.7 billion. We've given them options to raise 10 billion. And I can run through some of them for you here. First and foremost, we said, look, scrap the tax waiver system that we have, because that tax waiver system is actually inimical to the growth of Ghanaian businesses. A foreign contractor has been given a road to do. He brings in equipment, he gets a tax waiver. A Ghanaian contractor is doing a similar road. He brings in equipment, has to pay taxes. It makes no sense. We're killing Ghanaian businesses. That tax waiver regime alone will save you between 3 to 5 billion Ghana cedis. The audit service has highlighted the fact that public waste, not necessarily complete loss, but public waste comes to the tune of about 12.8 billion in 2021. We're saying, look, let's even do 50%. Let's assume that 50% of it is exaggeration or misreportage by the Auditor General. That in itself gives you about 6 billion. If you add 6 billion to about the 3 to 5 billion, you've already made about 11 billion. In this time that you are telling us to tighten our belt and pay more taxes, the Office of Government Machinery, that runs the Office of the President, that continues to hire the luxurious jet that our President is currently flying as we speak here today, has increased its budget from 2.3 billion last year to 3.2 billion this year. So we're asking the ordinary Ghanaian to reduce our savings and pay more into the kitty, but our President has actually increased his expenditure.
The government has made a 20% cut in expenditure on the budget, and also it was initially 1.75. Now it is 1.5. That's a compromise.
So Samson, you see, I've been asking everybody in the MPP side to show us exactly where they have cut in the budget. You see, they say they've cut by 20%. They've not given you the fine details, the minutiae. Where are they cutting from? I'm showing you where they are increasing. I'm showing you that in 2021, the vote in the budget for the office of the president was 2.3 billion. In 2022, it is 3.2 billion. They've increased by almost 50%. At the time they're asking us to pay more, that the Office of Government Machinery alone is going to take more than 50% of the revenue from E-levy. Because mind you, right now, E-levy is no longer going to bring 6.7 billion. Because those calculations were done with 1.75, with 12 months of collection, and with certain collection ranges. Now they say they are doing some exemptions on e-government platforms. It no longer is going to be for 12 months, it's at 1.5%. So clearly, your revenue estimations will drop. Government alone, President's office, President Akufo-Addo's office alone, is taking 3.2 billion out of what should now be a 5 billion revenue.
Okay.
How do you explain to me, how do you ask me that when I'm sending 200 Ghana cedis to my auntie in the village to buy critical medication and she receives 200 Ghana cedis, you say she's rich, so she must pay 1.75 to support the ostentatious living of government? That cannot be accepted.
So the last bit I ask, if you can just say a minute or two on that, is about why you bring in, some would say, unnecessarily, a matter in the courts.
Because, something, there's a civil case ongoing. Why won't you allow the civil case to complete? The civil case is ongoing.
The law allows for a civil and criminal case to go side by side.
You realize that it is the desperation that has led my colleague member to go and sit on radio and castigate his own member. And again, that tells you what's going to happen to the unity of that caucus. And, well, excites me. But if they can begin to cannibalize themselves in the media openly, it shows you the desperation. And that's why for them, the only way they can equal the numbers, if they can rein in quotes, their errant member, is to also reduce our numbers by instituting a criminal case that, something, for the life of me, yes, everybody has the right to go to court on any issue that you so wish. It is the prerogative of the court to dismiss same or show the logic or otherwise of it.
Exactly.
But you see, when the state...
And the criminal case, I don't get the logic, because the criminal case may actually travel beyond this parliament's life.
Absolutely. So no, but then you then see attempts for them to use the commencement of the criminal case to get the gentleman out of parliament. You've had a senior seasoned lawyer like Apeatse say that they will physically restrain him from entering the chamber. I mean, what kind of desperation is that?
That's about.
I was waiting to see how they will do that in parliament.
Where they have filed is an injunction process, and they are seeking. If you are injuncted, then it means you will not be able to sit until the case.
Well, I'm glad the courts did not allow them to do that ex parte. Because you see, that's the desperation we're talking about. They sought to actually even do that ex parte.
But that's allowed by law.
But that smacks of desperation. I'm not saying that their actions are illegal. Let's be clear here. Legally, everything is permissible.
Okay.
However, the point we must make here is these are desperate acts of a drowning government seeking to find its way out.
Gary, let's hear you on this and what is likely to happen to the Member of Parliament, Adwoa Safo, and because of the comments that we have heard from key members of the party regarding her absence and the claims that she's seeking things that she's not getting, and therefore she's using, trying to blackmail the party and so on and so forth. Gary, please unmute your mic. Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
That's right.
Okay, good morning to you and good morning to Mr. Bentel, and good morning, Sam George, Honorable.
Good morning, bro.
I think that basically the comments that have been run by Mr. Sam George on your platform, to me, are very, very unfortunate. I mean, to the extent of being trying to drag in the court of law into matters that are purely legal in nature, I think it's quite unfortunate. That be as it may. On the issue of Adwoa Safo, I would like to, stay clear of it and not to comment about this matter, in the sense that eventually, if any matter should come before the legal committee, I'm supposed to make a comment on it. So I don't think that it is fair and proper for me at this stage to pass any comment on it publicly.
Yeah, as we understand by the constitutional provision regarding the situation, she's been absent for a long time, and she had applied for an extension of her leave of absence in Parliament. It does appear that has not been granted. Now, the issue is that once it is not granted and she stays out and away for the period that the Constitution does not allow for a member to stay out of Parliament, then the Speaker must declare her seat vacant and a by-election be gone into. So the suggestion again is that it is deliberate to deny her the extension of the leave so that she may not, she will violate the law and then she'll be kicked out.
Well, let me say again that I said it's a matter that if it comes to the Legal and Constitutional Committee, I will be obliged to pass a comment on the matter. At this stage, I want to really excuse myself on that particular topic, and then we can make progress on the other topics which have been tabled before you this morning, especially with the attending drawn by some judge and the aspersion and castigation that we are using every means possible, including using the court, to reduce their numbers by 1 so that we can pass the E-levy. That I think is very unfortunate, because for something you know very well that this Asinov case, it didn't start today. It started somewhere last year. Now, if some judge had even seen the declaration that was accompanied with the gentleman's filing of nomination with the EC, I don't think you made the comment that he's making. If some judge has seen the passport he was holding at the time when he was traveling in and out of Ghana, you will not make the comment that he is making. You see, there are certain things that when you say, clearly, I think we should be very, very cautious, because it's a public statement that you are making. Look, this is a gentleman who filed his nomination with the EC and then said that I owe allegiance to Ghana alone, but not to any other country, which was backed by a declaration signed by a notary public with his seal affixed on it. All right? At the time of making that declaration, all the facts, material facts, were within his custody, were within his domain, and he knew very well that he had not obtained a certificate of renunciation, which he got somewhere around November of 2020, just before the elections. So you see, if now the Attorney General and the DPP decide that they want to file criminal charges, and then you come and say that, well, because of E-levy or because of reducing our numbers by 1, I think it's unfair and unfortunate. Meanwhile, talking on this public matter, you have not even seen the documentation you are talking about. You haven't seen the travel history. You haven't seen it. So I think that because the matter is in court, I will not want to say anything to suggest that I want to prejudice any matter on the radio or on the television. I think that it is just fair that the system should be allowed to run. And you say that the court is the last hope. Yes, we agree. The court is the last hope.
Yeah.
But nobody is using the court to overturn the anything in the country.
Right. But
what is happening?
Yes. Yes. It's because the court in Cape Coast, the court of first instance, as in the Cape Coast High Court, had found that he was not eligible to have contested elections, and therefore annulled the Asin North parliamentary elections in July of 2021. But he went further to the Court of Appeal, and he has subsequently filed other processes. And the question they are asking is, why can't you wait? What the hurry? What's the hurry?
Samson, there is nothing to hurry. The bottom line is that the lawyers for Mr. JoyNews are using what we call legal gymnastics at the Court of Appeal, or in their attempt to delay and frustrate the legal processes. Look, they filed the appeal somewhere around the June, July of 2021. Not long thereafter, we went for legal vacation in, I think, August.
Yeah, that's 2 months.
So August, September, October, we came back. Now the stay was supposed to be held to be moved in November. Then when the stay was supposed to be moved, they came and said, oh, they filed additional notice of appeal and also a referral to the Supreme Court of Article 94. Because in their view, that matter ought to go to the Supreme Court for interpretation as to whether or not the issue of dual citizenship, in their view, was not answered by the NATO case. Now, the application was moved. Then the Court of Appeal said, no, we are not going to allow the referral because it wasn't part of your case at the High Court. Subsequently, they filed an appeal to the Supreme Court on that issue. They filed an appeal. Now, the Court of Appeal dismissed they dismissed this one and they asked them to file additional grounds, which they subsequently filed. They did not move the stay application, and then now they are pursuing the matter at the Supreme Court about the interpretation of Article 94. So clearly, all that they are doing, you can see from the thin line that they are not interested in dealing with the state, because the state ought to have been moved for the court to decide one way or the other as to whether to grant or to refuse.
The stay of execution, the stay of execution of the judgment of the Cape Coast High Court For as long as it continues unmoved or not argued, what are the implications?
It means that they've now kept the judgment in abeyance. You see, so the Court of Appeal said that if you all go to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court will deal with the appeal application, and then whatever the Supreme Court says, then they will abide by it at the Court of Appeal level. So as I speak to you, they have left the stay application in abeyance at the Court of Appeal. You see, so when an application has already been filed at the Supreme Court, that's okay. Now you all of you say you want interpretation of Article 94. Okay, so let's deal with it here. But on the back of it, we are saying that there's a judgment which has not been overturned by the Court of Appeal, which says that you are not a member of Parliament on account of ineligibility, and so therefore we want injunction to injunct you from performing parliamentary duties. They want to serve you with the processes. If anything at all, something, allow yourself to be served with the process. Be served with the process, so your lawyers can respond. Then the Supreme Court can deal with the application one way or the other.
You know that in the similar fashion that the stay of execution of the judgment is pending worries you, and if you are able to serve him with the injunction application, it will also mean that from the date that you serve him, he will not be able to go to Parliament. Is that not so?
That is so. That is so.
So do you understand why, if it is the fact that he's running away, he'll be running away from service?
That's exactly what he's doing. You know, because clearly, if you accept service, then the application can be heard, and then it can be dealt with one way or the other.
Yeah. So once you accept it, for the period that if you accept it today, then perhaps the next day the E-levy bill will be put in Parliament if the case is not being argued, and you can't come because you'll be cited for contempt. Is that not so?
Maybe that is the permutation they are putting on it, but clearly, now it has come to the attention through the public notification that this application for injunction, they are looking for him to serve it. So, look, now whether he take it or not, definitely there will be an attempt to come by subject service to serve him with the process. You understand? Because now it has come to the attention that yes, the application is pending and it ought to be served, so it can be moved. But clearly, there is nothing about this.
So you admit that it's a legal strategy that he may have also taken to avoid what you are trying to do, which will stop him from going to Parliament and may give you an advantage. And so when the minority comments the way they are doing, they are right, are they not? And to be,
no, they are wrong.
And to be fair, you have said that Sam George has sought to say certain things about the court. This morning, he hasn't said anything untoward about the court. He's actually not made a comment that we can say is disparaging or anything like that. The comment that he made,
which I vehemently disagree with him, is the comment that the court is acquiescing to the demands of an overpampered executive. This is a comment that he made on your platform.
He says so.
Yes. No.
They are acquiescing to the demands of overpampered executive.
Okay, I thought he said that they should not, rather.
That's what I said.
You see, Aladi. Let's call the spade a spade. The courts have always been independent. Yesterday, I think yesterday or the day before yesterday, my attention was drawn to another video done by Mr. Susu, Honorable Susu, Medina MP, trying to suggest that there are certain political judges who their term will run with a certain regime when anything takes over from office. You see, these are not comments that we should encourage in this country. You see, because the courts, as they sit, they are independent. The court, as they sit, they apply law. In fact, if the court were acquiescing to overpampered executive, then clearly at the time when the application for expert
ECG has taken his light.
Unfortunately, Gary's I seem to have had a blackout there. But when he comes back, briefly, I'd like him to respond to the criminal one as well. Because while this is going on, there's a criminal one that is against him. And he's saying that Sam George and others have not seen the evidence and so on. The question is that the minority is asking, why don't you wait until all of this is over? Yes, Kofi, what's your reading of what is going on as far as the impact of the E-levy is on our society, on the parties, on Parliament, and now somehow getting into the court?
Yeah, Samson, it's unfortunate, needless stress. But specifically on the issue, let's be clear. It is quite obvious from all we can see that the NPP is having problems with their parliamentary strategy. And for me personally, it is surprising because some of these things should have been obvious. I remember on the day that the speaker was elected, and I was sitting with a couple of people and we were expressing shock that given the situation, the NPP was so confident, but they lacked the strategy and allowed the NDC to win on that. And then again, strategically thinking, I remember remarking to a colleague who was close to me that I don't see why the NPP was accepting the deputy speakership. Because anytime the speaker is not there and the deputy speaker sits, they will be shot by one. And in a situation where one vote makes a difference, strategy-wise, they shouldn't have been doing that, but they did it. Clearly, it looks like they are having a problem whipping their members into parliament, and it's now playing out in public. So MPP clearly is having a massive problem with their parliamentary strategy. And now it has spilled over into the court. I remember telling my colleagues that in the practice of law, strategy can be more effective than the law itself. And that's a very important thing to keep in mind. When you are looking for a certain particular end, the law may be a tool, but strategy can be more effective than the law in the actual practice. That is what is playing out. Now, having seen that they are fighting, or they are having a problem in Parliament, the NPP, and I'm saying this carefully, rightly so, is using some advantages that they may get from the courts. And I agree with Gary. And Gary, hi. This matter precedes E-levy. It just turns out that if they pursue this matter a bit more diligently, and they've had all this time to have done this, they didn't do it. But well, better late than never. Doing this now will help them in Parliament. Why not? So I don't have a problem with NPP using their parliamentary strategy. But that being said, as an independent person, this is what I'm going to say. Our courts must be mindful that their actions can play into somebody's political advantage. If, therefore, they are mindful of that and they wish to proceed as if nothing is happening, that's their prerogative.
Are you suggesting that if the Attorney General or the police have evidence of a crime committed by a member of Parliament, they should fold their arms and say, because if we touch the person and the court gives a favorable ruling, it will do what?
I am not saying that. I am saying that whatever happens in a court has a certain repercussion outside the court. In this case, there's a political issue playing out. And the effects of what is done in the court, rightly so, will have a clear political effect. So the courts must be mindful of that. Something you and I know of cases we have filed that have not even been called. The things that the court, especially when you go to the higher courts, it's not just law, it's policy, and all kinds of discretions are applied. So I'm simply saying, our courts must be mindful of the effect of their actions or inactions, and be careful that their actions do not play into the hands of the politicians. And if they so wish it to be, let it be. I'm simply saying all of us are watching and we know what is going on. The judges live in this country, they understand what is going on. Gary and his colleagues have every right to pursue what they are pursuing.
Yes.
And the NDC has every right to complain that, hey, why have you waited all this time? But at the end of the day, I still have faith in our courts.
Why should it matter? Why should it matter that anybody has waited all this while till whatever? Why should it matter? For as long as the evidence will show that will help a judge to make a decision one way or the other, why should they think outside the four walls of the court?
They should, because they live in society and they understand that their actions have some effect on society.
Right. So if they live in society and they should think about what is going in Parliament, the evidence is put before them and they find that the MP is guilty or is not guilty. They should say the MP is guilty when he's not guilty, or the MP is not guilty when he's guilty, so as to save what?
I have not said they should say this or they should say that, or they shouldn't say this or they shouldn't say that. I'm simply saying our judges know that politicians play these games and they rightly have to. They should be aware, and they are aware, that the decisions they make will have an effect politically. I'm not saying they shouldn't or they should. I'm simply saying that we all know they are aware. So they should be mindful if they intend to proceed, even with alacrity on this matter, and quickly resolve it, so be it. If they intend also to use the normal processes, which may mean that it will take longer, or they intend to even rest some of the issues. There are cases in court today that have been resting, and sometimes the courts can issue a hearing notice. For this or that reason, they wait here or they wait there.
Yes,
and they have the prerogative, so to
but
stay.
you know also that some of these cases, the delay is not always to blame on the courts, because often you will find that it's some lousy lawyer who is not doing their work well.
Exactly what my point. So there are many things that have led to this kind of delay. What I'm simply saying is that the courts can choose to speed up the process. The courts have that power. The court can issue a hearing notice. The courts can also choose to let the process follow its normal course. Gary is alluding to some legal strategy about appealing and making the thing drag along. The courts can actually truncate some of those processes and force you to come in and make your case on the substantive matters.
Yes.
What I'm simply saying,
the standing rule is that justice must be expeditious.
Yes, and the courts have prerogative. A judge is in control of his court and has the prerogative to actually take steps to speed up a case, or in the interest of justice, hold on till certain things are resolved. So I am saying this to the generality of Ghanaians. Our courts and our judges are doing their work, but they are also aware that what they do has an effect in society. The politicians have a right to apply the strategies they are applying to get the ends that they want. Clearly, if MPP is having a problem rallying its members, they will resort to any other means they can resort to.
Whatever the courts do, it will have an effect on society or particular individuals. Gary,
the courts must not give an undue advantage to a party, which is an issue beyond the court.
The court must take deliberate steps. It must take deliberate steps to delay the case. Is that your suggestion?
No, the court must do justice, but must be minded that there are other consequences of the justice that they do. Once they are minded that these are the consequences, the wise men in the judges' robes know exactly what to do. They can choose to act in ways that help our union instead of breaking it up.
I hear you. Now, Gary, just a minute, because I needed you to do that before your line cut. The accusation is that you should wait for all these civil processes to complete before you take up the criminal matter. So why the criminal matter being pushed at this time also?
Well, Mr. Ladi, you agree with me. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
You agree with me? Well, you agree with me that the criminal matter and the civil matter can run side by side. There is no law or rule of practice that says that the criminal matter and the civil matter cannot run side by side.
That's right.
That's why I was happy when they pointed this out to my brother, Honorable Sam George. That why are we not waiting? We cannot wait. And we are not going to wait. We are not going to wait. What we are doing is permissible by law. Now,
but you also know that the decision to prosecute is a political decision, is it not?
It's political and legal.
Okay.
It's political and legal because the Article 88 makes it very clear that it's based on Attorney General to decide to prosecute or not to prosecute, or to not to prosecute or not to do otherwise. So, as it stands now, the criminal matter and the civil matter are going to run side by side. There is no law that bans it. That's one point. Number two, Mr. Benson made the point that the court should be mindful because their decisions will give a political advantage to a political party one way or the other. You see, we must be very, very clear in our minds as a country. The laws that are made in this country are not for the fun of it. The laws are meant to guide our actions and inactions. So if somebody commits a crime, we will say that because, for some reason, if a court were to decide one way or the other, it will give one party an advantage or otherwise, the court should not decide. They should delay the case ad infinitum. Is that what we are saying? Is that what we are saying? Justice delayed, justice denied. This matter ought to be done expeditiously so that one way or the other, we all know whether Mr. Kwesi, at the time of filing his nomination in October, he was indeed right to have done so or wrong to have done so. Both the criminal matter and the civil matter ought to be dealt with in an expeditious manner. So I disagree with Mr. Bente when he says that, well, maybe it may give an advantage and so therefore let us hold on and wait and delay. We all say that there's a delay in the court, we don't like it. So why should some cases be delayed? You know, so please, I don't think this matter is an exception. This matter ought to be dealt with expeditiously so that we all know.
I said that was the last, but I need you to help us with this in some 30 seconds. Both the NPP and the NDC are pursuing some petitions, parliamentary, across the country, over a dozen cases, I guess. Are you pursuing them with the same zest like you are doing with this one? The same zeal?
Something, you know, these days you hardly find me in Accra. And you asked me the question the last time when I met you, that how come you don't see me in Accra court? And I said, I'm in the village. All right? We go to Wenchi myself. We've been going. Tomorrow, we are leaving tomorrow. We have Monday and Tuesday. We've been going to the court consistently in myself Parliamentary. We are done with the first petitioner. So, no, the petitioner himself, we finished with him at a cross-examination. We're done with the first witness for the petitioner. We're done with the second witness for the petitioner, the secretary himself. Monday, we are doing the last one. That's your last witness.
In total, how many cases are you pursuing in Parliament, hoping to get some more numbers? How many cases?
In total, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's about the active ones, which we know are, at about 4 or 5 cases. We have the Asenov, we have the Techimansa, we have the one with the lady, Jomoro, we have the one at the north, two at the north.
Okay.
Which we are working on. Yeah. And we are pursuing all the cases. There are lawyers deployed to do all these cases.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Gary. Right.
They should just give us 2 seats.
Thank you, Gary. Sam George says I should give him some 30 seconds before we take our break.
Just to be clear, Gary didn't hear me right. What I said was that the judiciary should not acquiesce to the demands of a pampered
I pointed that to him.
Yes. Now, it's also important that Kofi Bentil made a point. We have, the NDC clearly has better strategy and leadership in Parliament.
So as we speak, both parties are seeking to use the courts to get some numbers.
No, I mean the NDC is not. The NDC
has taken up suits. The NPP too has taken up suits.
Absolutely. But the NDC is doing all of this on the legal grounds. Gary admits, rightly so, that this Asin North case is both political and legal, and that gives me a cause for worry. The courts must never be an arena for settling political scores. It must be an arena for settling legal scores.
No, what he agreed was when I told him that the decision to prosecute is a political decision. A political decision doesn't mean it's partisan or not.
No, but
the prosecution is a political decision.
Should we have our Attorney General engage in political prosecutions?
No, I use political not in the sense you appreciate it.
No, but that's the point. I mean, how do you explain a political prosecution?
Thank you very much. We take a break. We'll be right back.
I have therefore, pursuant to Section 101 of the Minerals and Mining Act 206, Act 703, taken a decision to establish this ministerial committee of inquiry to review the entire health and safety regime of the mining industry in our country. The task which the committee is to undertake is one that requires expertise. Accordingly, the ministry has decided that the committee will be chaired by the Vice Chancellor of the foremost university specialized in mining and mining technology, the George Grant University of Mines and Technology, Professor Richard Amankwa. The terms of reference of the committee are as follows. 1. To undertake a general review of the health and safety regime in the mining industry. 2. To review the existing laws, regulations, and guidelines on health and safety standards in the mining industry. 3. To inquire into any matter relating to health and safety in the mining industry. And 4. To make recommendations to government for legislative, policy, and other reforms it may deem fit. The committee has 1 month from today to present its report.
Abu Jinapor is the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and he has been leading the process to rebuilding life and homes in Apeatse. Thank you for joining us, sir. Okay, so let's go back to this issue now. Kofi, how far, what's your assessment so far of the processes in Apeatse? $6 million, the president has directed that the $5 million, which is actually not the fine, it's only $1 million, which is a fine that was imposed on Maxam. The $5 million should be donated, so to speak, to the fund for rebuilding the town.
Right. I think all of that is really good. I just have one worry. The issues going on at Apeatse will lead to another problem that we would have to come and sit and investigate if we don't make sure that everything that is done in a legally sound way. 1, the fine, legally sound. The $5 million extra, let's situate it in a proper legal structure. I've heard of some payment terms. It must not be between my brother Abu and the people. Of course, that is not the situation. But I'm saying whatever they do, it must be legally sound. And the thinking must be that even if they are not in government, whoever comes up after them should be able to collect that money. And then again, the president's order that that money should be used in Apeatse must be set in some sort of executive instrument or law or order. And behind all this must be total transparency. So far, that is my biggest problem with what's going on at Apeatse. Of course, there's a lot of moving parts, but I don't see why by now we don't have an Apeatse website. I don't see why we cannot put every single donation on the website. I don't see why we cannot put every single expenditure on the website. And by the way, the committee that is going to handle the Apeatse issues, rebuilding, whatever it is, I need to see that there are indigents from Apeatse. There is the chief or whoever from Apeatse. If you left it to me alone, and I'm not being populist, I will insist that the chairman be resident in Apeatse. One of the things the government can do, if I were in any position, I'll build a house in Apeatse and put the chairman and whoever is there. If you don't have the time, if you don't have the wherewithal, if you don't have, the presence of mind or the passion for Apeatse to be consistently on that issue, you should not be chairing this at all. And I do believe there are people we can get or somebody we can get who will take this on, because a whole township is gone. And I have no doubt that the majority of the people in Apeatse today have not seen or felt any government, support. So we need to make sure that this thing does not lead to people in Accra becoming rich. It does not lead to another scandal we have to investigate later, but it actually leads to the rebuilding of Apeatse and leads to situations where companies like Maxam and their like do not do things like this. Maybe we'll have time to talk about the other thing, but what happened in Apeatse, meaning that we could transport explosives of this magnitude in such a loose manner, If anybody had hijacked that vehicle and driven it to Jubilee House, we would have had a different situation on our hands. So there's a bigger picture we need to be looking at over here. And in short, I'm saying total transparency and making sure legally sound moves are being made is what we need at this point. We should not lead to a situation where later we come to investigate some untoward dealings.
Right, Dr. Bright Opong Afum, what do you make of the remedial measures? Now, the minister in his statement was very clear that you cannot transport explosives on a public road unless there's been 48 hours notice to the regional mine inspector. A number of things have to go on. There have to be certification that has to be carried out. Also the question of escort clearly spelled out in the minister's release that he signed as what has, transpired on the basis of the investigations that have gone on. There will be 2 escorts, one, in front and one behind, making sure that, things are done in the right manner. What do you make of those other measures?
Yes, thank you very much, Samson. Greetings to your cherished viewers, and again, my condolences to the Apeatse community. So, when you look at the measures that the minister put in place, you can really see that there was an urgency to remediate and also to ensure that the mining company business is going on, because we all know the contribution that the mines or the mining companies are giving to the country. So it's very important that we try, though we must take action because due to legal issues or accidents or whatever. But when we are remediating, we should also ensure that business also goes on. Yes, so the measures actually are resounding. Some could be immediately carried out. Some too, practically is not feasible. For instance, if the vehicle do not have any GPS tracking system, it needs to go through procurement system for installation and all those things to be able to ensure that we have those in place. Now the escorts, sometimes because we are not privy to the entire report, we find it difficult to also see the mind or where the minister is coming from. But it's true, the LI 2177 defines having escorts, but the detail of the escorts is silent. But most mines or most companies try to manage the escorts as they like, or feasible or as practical as much as possible. So looking at the measures, I think some are good, some too requires, some cannot be implemented because of procurement actions, and also
you mean some cannot be implemented immediately? That's what you mean, not that they cannot be implemented.
Yes, some cannot be implemented immediately. Some will take time.
So yes,
so
Dr. Afum, hold on briefly for me. Let me bring on the minister. I understand that he's been with us for a while and he's in a meeting and has to return. So let's get to him briefly, then he goes back. Thank you, Mr. Abujinapo, for joining us. Hello, sir.
Thank you very much, my good friend Samson.
Great.
And good morning to your cherished listeners.
Right. So is it yesterday that you issued a statement confirming that the president has approved, or as it were, ordered that the 5 million, which is not the fine, it's the 1 million which is the fine. The 1 million goes to the regulator as IGF, and then the 5 million should go into the fund for the rebuilding of Apeatse. How are you going to ensure that it comes in as quickly as possible and to ensure that they have their life backs as quickly as is reasonable?
As in the company, Maxam?
That's right.
Well, so far as I'm concerned, the boxes which have to be ticked have been ticked. I mean, I wrote to the Minerals Commission to communicate to them the decisions I have taken, which is part of which is what you've just enumerated, which is the fine component, which my understanding is that it's been paid, the $1 million US dollars. The conditions which we put in place also have been communicated to the Minerals Commission. So at this stage, the ball is in the Minerals Commission's court.
But there's a supervision that has to go on to ensure that the rebuilding is done in a reasonable time for the people. Is that not so?
Absolutely, absolutely. You are so right about that. And that is something that is occupying my attention almost on a daily basis. As you may be aware, I have set up an Apeatse reconstruction project implementation team. And the whole idea was to bring the various organs of the government together. I mean, for instance, you cannot build a community without LUSPA. LUSPA being the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, which is the formerly Town and Country Planning. So they have a seat on this committee. The Soviet Authority has a seat on this committee. The Ministry of Works and Housing is represented. The chamber itself, I mean, I don't know if you know this, a lot of the chamber, the mining companies, large-scale mining companies, engage in resettlement almost on a regular basis. And they have a seat on this committee. So there's a team that is working tirelessly. They've been to the community already. The idea really, something, and I should say this with a lot of emphasis, is that we need to rebuild this community properly. In other words, it should be a properly planned community, sustainable community, green community, with all the things that any modern community anywhere in the world will have. That is the instructions of the president, and that is what we are working towards. Thankfully, it will appear that we are putting the money together here and there. It looks like funding may not be such a major problem. Where we need to keep our eye on is actually to make sure that this is done properly. I mean, first of all, value for money, the adherence, the strictest standards of transparency and accountability, and also that it is done and done properly. So if Ghanaians go to see this community, it becomes a model village or township for all of the country. So that's what we are working towards.
Is it out of this $5 million US that the 13 persons that died will also receive some compensation, as in their dependents or relatives?
Well, I will be reluctant in venturing into that because, as you know, I've been very, very careful not to have any of my decisions or actions constitute a bar to any civil claim, and also for it to not prejudice any such entitlement. You know better. So I'm careful about that. What we need to proceed methodically. Now we have an Apeatse support fund. Let us see how much they will be able to raise. I mean, the understanding I get is that they are giving themselves up to end of March, and by which time we have a clear sense of how much we've been able to put together. Definitely, we need to look at the reconstruction of the community very closely as a priority. And then, of course, if we still have some more money, we need to look at other matters, the livelihoods of the people, as you are saying, the people who died and their dependents, and so on and so forth. But that obviously
the 100 others who got injured.
Exactly, all of them. We need to take a holistic view of it. But we have to prioritize. But those should not also be prejudicial or a bar to any claim, you know, and that's very important. Look, I've been speaking to my good friend, the Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Mr. Suleiman Akondi, who has been very cooperative and offered a lot of leadership. And I've said to him, and I have no difficulty saying this publicly, I've said to him that, look, the mining industry, and not just the mining, the extractive industry across the world, normally carries a certain negative brand. Indigenous and citizens sometimes feel they don't get the full value of these resources. When they do the cost-benefit analysis, they don't benefit. And here you are with this tragic event. I think it gives us a golden opportunity for us, and when I say us, the ministry, the chamber, and all the stakeholders involved in the mining industry, to pull our weight and step forward. And through that, I believe, can repair the corporate image of this industry, of which I'm a minister, and I take them as my partner. So they are also putting themselves together, and hopefully very soon I'll be leading them to the president, and we will hear, the country will hear what support the mining community of our country has to offer in this very difficult situation we find ourselves in.
All right. Beyond that, the committee, you say the committee has a very short time. Is it a 1 month period to be able to...
the fundraising committee.
Yes, they have 1 month from Monday, February 7, to present a report and recommendations to government for reforms.
There's been a lot of steps we've taken in this matter. So, is this question in relation to Professor Amankwa's committee?
That's right.
Okay. So, what it is that, as you know, there are different issues which come up as a result of this incident. There is the immediate issue of the incident itself, the Apeatse incident itself, which is something that we've been dealing with, and which is what occasioned the investigation, specifically on the Apeatse. And then, of course, what we just discussed, the support fund and the reconstruction. But there is another matter which, for me, is equally important, which is the health and safety regime of the mining industry as a whole. And by that, we are not discussing only explosives. We are talking about the totality of the health and safety arrangement of the mining industry. And in the statement I made, you recall that I pointed out some incidents which are taking place in Anglo Gold, where 1 person died, one in Ayamfori, which 5 people died, and several other incidents. And therefore, this offers us an opportunity to look at the health and safety regime of the mining industry holistically. And I took the view that an assignment like that ought not be done by people who don't have the technical know-how, which is why I invited the Vice Chancellor of the George Grant University of Mines and Technology, himself a mining engineer of international repute, to chair the committee for government, and then wrote to the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences for a representative who nominated somebody whose CV is extraordinary, actually. And then the Ghana Bar Association, because I felt that part of it is also going to be a review of the legal regime as well. And the Ghana Bar Association also nominated a senior associate from Incapremo, whose CV is also sterling. And my advisor on mining, whom I have a lot of confidence in, Mr. Ben Ayi, himself a former chief executive officer of the Minerals Commission, and the players who are in the industry will attest to his integrity and his capability. He also is a member. And I said we should get a distinguished former chief inspector of mines and to be a member. So we have a former chief inspector of mines. So they have a month from 7th of February to produce a report which makes recommendations to me, the minister, for us to be able to overhaul the entire health and safety regime of mines. There have been questions about even where mines are sited and communities by the mine, a whole lot.
All right.
Those questions are is exactly the mandate of this committee.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We'll leave you here so that you can continue with your meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, Bright of whom you were looking at the specific measures to avoid a recurrence. And you were talking about those that can be implemented immediately and those that may take some time to implement. But your complete view of the measures is that they are good?
Yes, Samson, thank you. So when you look at best mining practices and also experiences or what has happened in the past, similar of these incidents have happened all over the world, in Iran, in Ontario, you know, in China, North Korea, and all those things. So we learn from what has happened to also make our system better. Now, when you look at the measures that the minister put in place, for me, 90% or 99% of it is already in the LI 2177. Just that the specifics of how to go about what is enshrined in the LI were not expounded, right? So
our problem usually has to do with implementation. Is that not so?
That is the story here. So we need to look at the implementation, the institutional lapses, what is actually driving this to ensure that we don't experience a similar incident or a higher one that will also destroy the image of the mining industry. And when you look at the system of some of the measures, as I said, cannot be implemented now. And now the measures did not only apply to Mazam company, it applies to all the explosive companies in the country. So are we saying that all of them should now install tracking system? I know some of them do have, but how long will it take for them to do that? What would the chief inspector of mines say when they are about to transport explosive and that system is not in place? Is he going to prevent them from the transportation, or is going to allow them? Now look at, we shouldn't transport ANFO or ammonium nitrates, fuel oil on our public roads. This means that the explosive services company should have a plant on the mining site. It's a good idea, but this is not going to happen overnight or in a week or in a month. There needs to be procurement arrangement.
Right.
Remember that although we try to manufacture explosives in Ghana, we actually don't manufacture explosives in Ghana. We actually transport explosives from or outside the country. We only manage or we prepare the explosives in Ghana. So from my experience, only about one company or two that has got mobile manufacturing ANFO plant. So in that case, are we saying that only that company should be working? And again, that company even has several sites, mining sites. So how is he going to move his plant? So this is not feasible. It's not practical in the industry. And surely the chief inspector of mines will have some challenge implementing that. And that's what I think we need to look.
All right. Now, Sam George, you hear the minister, he's unwilling to be categorical about what goes into compensation. There are 13 people who have died. There are 100 or more, is it, who have suffered various degrees of injuries. He does appear to have his focus on the rebuilding exercise as in the structures of the community. Of course, the statement said that these monies that are being given out is without prejudice to people who want to take legal action and the rest of them.
Yes, something. It's important that we bear in mind that where we find ourselves, it's a double-edged sword. It's an unfortunate situation. Again, my commiserations to the families of the deceased and the injured and the displaced. But then it gives us the opportunity to reset the ball. And when you look at the legislative framework we have, like the mining experts we just spoke to, Dr. Afo, you know, Dr. Afum. The minister's directives are not new things. They're things that exist in the regulatory framework we have as a country. It's just that implementation of them have actually not been up to scratch. Okay. This is an opportunity for us to sit back and look at regulatory bodies and look at how well they're performing their regulatory functions. Okay, because you look at what has happened, and that's why I was a bit worried about the imposition of the fine. Not to say that the fine shouldn't have been imposed, but should that have come from the minister? It should have come from the Mining Commission or the Minerals Commission, which is the regulator for that space. Okay, because if you look at the LI that governs the mining and all, it is the regulator who is supposed to impose fines. And even with the fines, when you look at the penalty points and all, you calculate it comes to about $50,000. So this is more of an administrative fine coming from the policymaker in the ministry. But this should give us an opportunity for us to look at how the regulatory body plays in that space. Now, again, on the issue of the victims, I'm worried that it is more of the administrative fine that seems to be funding the recovery fund. The international best practice is that these companies must have insurance cover.
But by the law, the fine ranges from 600 Ghana cedis to 10,000 United States dollars.
That's the point I'm making. So, so that's why I said, clearly, this 6 million that we're talking about is something that came outside of the remit. And
so
I'm not against it.
If you're allowing the regulator to impose it, then it meant that you can't have more than what is...
Absolutely. Yeah. But the point I'm making is the regulator's remit is not just the imposition of fines. It's actually the conduct of the organizations they regulate. If there had been proper enforcement of regulations in piloting, in escorting. Look, if you look at the regulations, it states that you must actually transport explosives in containerized vessels, which are able to contain a possible blast. So some kind of armored kind of container. It's all in the regulations. It states that there must be an escort vehicle and a pilot vehicle. If all of these were properly followed, you don't have seen what happened here. Now, the point I was making about insurance is, again, the regulation demands that companies involved in this, in the transportation, must have insurance that covers it. I haven't had any conversation where the government is drawing down on the insurance cover of the transporter, because bear in mind, yes, Maxim has been fined, but it wasn't Maxim that was doing the transportation.
That's right.
The company doing the transportation, were they insured? Did they have an insurance cover? Have we made a claim against the insurance? Is the state, which has responsibility to the citizens who are diseased, displaced, and injured, making a claim on behalf of its citizens against the insurance policy of the company? Did they even have an insurance policy? Nobody said anything to us about all of that.
Do you get the impression that because even this fine imposition brings up questions of, arbitrary sort of conducts, because you must act within the law. You cannot act above what the law says. And now, do you get the impression it is the case that the individuals, those who have been affected, may now take their own actions, which will draw on the insurance?
It will be advised, in my limited opinion, that a class action suit of some sort should be brought on behalf of the citizens of Apeatse. It may not be just one class; it could be grouped into clusters and bring collective class action suits, so that for the first time, and I don't think we've seen any major class action suit in Ghana before, but this may really be the opportunity for us to test that area of the law in Ghana and then draw down on the insurance cover. Now, if, and I keep using the word if there was an insurance cover.
But they do not need to take a legal action before they can get the insurance claim. It is when perhaps that is not enough.
Sure. So it depends on what insurance, what the company offers as some kind of compensation.
That's right.
Drawing from this insurance. They can choose to challenge whatever quantum is being given to them.
Right.
But the point I'm making is, in all of this conversation, I haven't heard any talk about insurance or any monies being paid by way of insurance. Because when you spoke to the minister, everything seems to center around the 6 million fine, okay, which is basically the president's directive has said, move 5 million into the fund. So if the president had not asked that should be moved into the fund, what happens? How are we going to be funding the reconstruction? Again, that for me is challenging because, and that's why I keep saying it's something I would want the minister to pick up. Did they have an insurance policy cover? Who is insuring them?
That's what I'm asking. Don't you think it's deliberate not to focus on that and leave that to the
citizens?
The residents themselves.
Well, I think that part of what the state must do as its responsibility to the citizens will be to be able to prod them in some of those directions. Even if the state was not going to lead the charge, help. We're talking about a community that the persons in there may not necessarily have the access to the kind of legal resources required to explore some of those options. Right. That's why you need the state. That's why the state has responsibilities beyond just the reconstruction, to even making sure that whatever civil benefits could accrue to the residents of Apeatse, the state prods them in that direction and offers them whatever legal resource they may need to be able to make the claims. Because even if it wasn't going to go to court and it was just a sit down with the company, you will need a lawyer to lead that conversation. And so that's why I'm saying that all of that must be factored into the entire rebuilding of Apeatse. It will be a beautiful thing that out of this, be like the phoenix, would rise a new community. I hear the minister talk about a green community. We hope that it will be properly planned. Right. And I just hope that in the execution of this, we don't end up having news stories or scandals of persons who were supposed to benefit, not benefiting. And I mean, it should be tidy.
Let's have Kofi Bento briefly on this. Kofi, what do you make of the $5 million that is $5 million that is supposed to be paid between the 1st of March 2022 and the 1st of August 2023, not necessarily being a part of a compensation package to the people? It's possible, but we don't know for now if that will be.
That is a problem for me. That is part of why I started and said, everything that is done must be done in a legally sound way. Samson, let's consider this. A year down the line, Maxam or whoever has been fined refuses to pay the money. What are you going to do? It must be such that it is clear what we are asking for. It must be such that we know the nature of the money, where it is going, and who it will, benefit. All right. So I worry that some of those details are not clear, to some of us now. I am hedging my comments because I am hoping that some of that work has been done, and maybe in due course we'll get to know. But as of now, I am not sure the nature of that $5 million. That is one. I am not sure the legal vehicle by which it is being exacted and how it is going to be treated. All right. We just did a census. It's not been too many, months since we did a census. So it should be possible for the government to have information about the residents and people of Apeatse. Now, it's been a few months since this thing happened. Those who have survived having to live rough, people are dead, all right, and their families are going to have issues. I don't see why, if we have a $5 million coming, the government cannot find some money or find a way of advancing some help to the residents and people of Apeatse. Even now, I don't know what has been done, and again, that black box approach is what is going to lead to a trouble down the line, and we should avoid it. So,
is it not the case that
tell us on what legal authority are we exacting the $5 million? Where is that fund going to go, and how is it going to be dispersed? And once we know that, let's follow it.
The $5 million is an agreed sum, as we are told. It's an agreed sum to be paid, and it is without prejudice to any criminal or civil liability Maxam may be subject to. Don't you agree that the first things that the people need for now is homes and their medical care where that is needed? Because if they are going to be giving money to do anything, they first need a place to lay their heads.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that they have to have a place to sleep. So if you're not going to give them money, but you're going to give them maybe makeshift houses or whatever it is, let's see some action on the people of Apeatse. Now, you said that it is an agreed sum. Samson, what you and I know is that what that suggests is that it's a gentleman's agreement. in the emotion and fury of the things that have happened in Apeatse, I can expect that anybody will come forth and say, I will do this and I'll do that. It's like a fundraising thing. People come in the euphoria and promise all kinds of things. When it dies down, what stops the maximum people from saying, I'm sorry, we've changed our mind and we don't think that we are supposed to pay that money. After all, the fine should not be more than 50,000. What stops them? So the 5 million, if I saw them bring in, prefabricated housing, okay, which can be done in 3 months, and I will know that that money is going somewhere. If I saw them put a medical team, nothing stops them from having a field hospital in Apeatse right now. That can be produced. Senor Jose and Co. built a hospital in record time in this place. So by now, there should have been a field hospital in Apeatse taking care of the people. Not everybody died. Some people were wounded. And some of the wounds is a spectrum, severe to mild. Who is taking care of them? Who is paying for their medication? Okay, so I haven't seen enough action, and I don't say everybody should come and report to me, but we need to see that some of these things are leading to, answers to the people of Apeatse. And then what will come later should be set in such a legal framework that they cannot derogate from it. Right now, a gentleman's agreement is not good enough. We are not seeing the immediate actions that we must be seeing. Wherever there's a disaster,
your suspicion is that being a gentleman's agreement, they can change their mind anytime, but they have their brand to protect. And you suspect that they may change their minds depending on how the people take their decisions regarding what to do. Supposing they start filing suits all over the place and they are claiming hefty amounts in those suits, they may rather want to channel this money into paying for those damages?
Absolutely. Samson, if you or some other lawyer was advising them, you would tell them, please, you can give this money and later you are going to have to pay another money in terms of the legals and whatever it is. So please hold on. If it's a gentleman's agreement, nothing binds them from honoring or dishonoring it. And please, let's be clear. These companies, and I mean every company, especially multinationals, they only care about their profits. To the extent that they are going to be able to defend their profits and they have viable business in Ghana, they will continue to be here and do the right things. We have seen big multinationals walk away because they calculated that it's not going to be viable to continue to be in Ghana. If Maxam or whoever it is, mining company or whatever, come to the conclusion that, look, given the future that we are looking at, we are going to be saddled with all these costs and whatever it is, they will roll up their operations and leave. Forget about their brand.
The 5 million together with the fine is on the basis that they have seen what they say, the demonstrable cash flow. So they clearly must have what it takes to pay that amount of money without, being affected.
Well, they may have the cash flow for it. It does not mean they are going to give it to you. And mark my words, they will be doing their calculations by now and ask themselves, what does it look like for the next 20 years in Ghana? If they are going to be saddled with lawsuits and millions of dollars in damages and whatever it is, they will leave this country.
They literally have a monopoly over this business. So it's good business for them.
It's the same point I'm making. If Ghana is good business for them, they will stay here and pay those things and then continue to do their business. But if they realize that Ghana is not going to be that good a business, they will roll up and leave. We should not think that these people or whoever they are love us so much that regardless of whatever they are facing, they are going to continue to do business here. They are seeking profit, and that's what is happening for 150 years. So let us make sure we tie them down whilst they are here. Make sure we have lien on some property that they have. Make sure that we've done things in a legally sound way, not a gentleman's agreement, so that even if they leave, which is their prerogative, we will still be able to go after them and get them to come and take care of our people who they have damaged.
All right. Let me take my quick final comment from Dr. Bright Opongafum, and then we will take a break and return to the Kotoka International Airport, where private jets can't seem to fly as planned. Yes, Dr. Afum, what will be your concluding comments?
Thank you very much, Samson. I was following the discussion from Kofi and also the Honorable. I think one thing should be made clear here. the fundamental error. But sometimes I don't want to wade into the legalities. But the fundamental error was the Mazam breaching. Was it the explosive or the explosion? Was it resulting as a fact that Mazam breached the law or the regulation? Though we are not privy to the information, but this is what technically it is. If the explosive accidentally detonated on its own, then we can say that surely Mazam was or has a hand in it. Now,
the things that were identified as breaches, Mazam is very clear that that has nothing to do with the explosion.
Yes, thank you. So we are looking at a start of a legal battle here, where, and in fact, that's how all the historical explosions happen, and what actually results after that. It doesn't end. Anything that happens in a legal fine, it doesn't end on that day. Now, I was interested in the last but one paragraph of the page 5 of the minister's press release, right? It's actually something that the international community will be looking out for, because there is a deferment of punishment or deferment of actions, and the international community will be following up and want to ensure that whatever that is happening in Ghana, if in future they want to invest in Ghana, they have that confidence. They are not liable to have a capital base for their business and also capital base for political endeavors. Then the second thing I want to tackle on, which will draw this curtain, is the committee that we have. Is a 1 month enough for such an exhaustive kind of work? We are looking at stakeholder engagement here. Surely we are going to engage the Chamber of Mines because they don't have a rep on the committee. Even the community, we don't even have a rep on the committee. So there will be extensive engagement. Now the committee have the 1 month, will it be enough for them to do justice to the safety, health, and the technicalities of the community?
Right.
I think of the mining committee, I think this is what we should also look at.
And like we identified, let's hope and pray that whatever the outcome will be, it will be implemented, because that exactly is our biggest problem. As you spoke about tracking devices, it took my mind to the excavators. Excavators are not supposed to be on the field unless they are fitted with tracking devices. And yet we had excavators that were all over the place mining when they were not supposed to be doing galamsey. And some of them actually got lost after we had retrieved them. So it's interesting in this country. And Note asks me a number of questions, poses a number of questions that the way we like to talk in Ghana, what has changed about the atomic junction blast? What is the legal basis for the 5 or 6 million? This question has been asked over and again. Are investigations complete? We are not privy to the full details of the investigations. How was liability computed? We don't have an idea how all of this came about. And are those liable insured? Well, it does appear the government is being careful to leave those matters for those who may want to take further action. We'll take a quick break and we'll return to the Kotoka International Airport. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And it's brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa. Strong is a group and close is a partner. MTN everywhere you go. at Chelsea University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years. Edlom Housing, where spacious homes cost less. DBS Industries, we truly are your root expert. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel. Duraplast, where Duraplast goes, water flows. And Rehoboth Properties, quality housing for all. I have Kofi Bentel of Imani on Zoom. I also have Sam George, who is the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram here in the studio. Now, joining us on Zoom again is Hassan Tampuli, who is the MP Gushon and Deputy Minister for Transport. Maybe he can help us understand what Mr. Kwakwa, the man in charge of the place, did not understand. He didn't know that he had been, dismissed at the time that he was dismissed. He was hearing it in the media. How did that happen? Hassan Tampuli, thank you for joining us. Please unmute your mic.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Good morning, Samson. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. So, first of all, what's going on? People are asking the question, what's going on at the airport, which your ministry has oversight over?
Thank you. So, as you rightly know, Magdan Aviation applied to Ghana Airport Company to use their facility for the benefit of and use of Magdan Shipping. Now, along the line, Magdan also developed interest in the aviation sector. So he requested to have what you call the FBO, fixed base operator, to operate a jet facility for the use of private jet operators. Now, you have to go through a certain process. Now, bear in mind that the airport company is not the licensing authority. So there's only one license for the Ghana Airport Company to operate Kotoka International Airports. And they have in turn concessionaire Magdan Aviation to operate the facility. So it's still the same license. But Ghana Airport Company has an obligation to ensure that the terms and conditions under which they were granted a license by the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority would be met. In other words, they have to ensure that the safety and security considerations that are embedded in their license are fully met, notwithstanding the fact that Magdan is not an employee, but rather a concessionaire. So they have a checklist that they go through with Magdan, and they ensure that everything that has to be done will be done in accordance with the regulations of the International Civil Aviation, ICAO regulations. So basically, that is what the whole situation is about. Of course, airport company would move in every now and again to inspect and to see whether the right thing is being done. They send their operators, they send their technical people, their engineers to check up the remolding of the place to see whether it's in accordance with the terms and conditions under which they operated. So basically, that is the background. Fast forward, Magdan has put the place, into the shape that they deemed fit, of course, under the supervision of the Airport Company Limited. Then the airport company was invited to come and inspect the place and to also give Magdan the permits and then parking slots for the visitors who will be attending the inauguration of the jet terminal. Now, that was when airport company realized that a few things hadn't been done right. And so they went into the place and said, look, first of all, you are not allowed under the international best practices to park vehicles in front of a terminal the way that they did. So quite clearly, airport company was very clear in their view that whatever it is that Magdan had put on paper, they probably have not imbibed it in terms of its operationalization. So then they sought to suspend the operation, the inauguration of the terminal until such a time that they are convinced that Magdan Aviation has not only done what is supposed to be done on paper, but they have also imbibed and understood exactly what it means they have signed for on paper.
How does it happen?
Are you following the
Clearly. How does it happen
Very well.
that Magdan was working with the Ghana Airport Company, and for all the time, they didn't see what they only saw at the inauguration? And he spent a long period, advertising and inviting the whole public and even beyond this country to this inauguration and subsequently to the operation. What happened?
Okay, so you lost me along the line, but if I understand you correctly, you want to know how come, if airport company was supervising their work, how come they sought to, at the last minute, stop the process? Is that correct?
That's right.
Very well. Okay, so the airport company received an invitation to participate or to attend the inauguration on the 28th, and the letter was sent to them on 27th. So officially, airport company was informed about the inauguration on the 27th for them to attend the following day, Friday, 28th. So that's when they went and realized that notwithstanding all that has been said on paper, it's difficult for them to allow them to operate or to inaugurate the place if they haven't done what is required of them. Now, the terminal has no problem. In terms of safety and security, they have a booth for the national security, for port health, for immigration, for customs, and for all the players who are supposed to be domiciled at the airports. So that has been sorted out. Every facility at the airport is in place. Now, what airport company sought to do was that in spite of all of these things that you have put in place, our understanding is that you haven't appreciated the commitment that you have put on paper because of what we have seen outside. Now, outside of the terminal building, you had cars parked almost every part in front of the terminal building. Now, that is not acceptable under the aviation regulations. So they realized at that point that no, if we sit down and allow these people to operate, we are going to have a bigger problem to deal with if this is how they are going to start. And that is the understanding that we got from the ministry. And so on the basis of that one, they had to put a stop to it until such a time that Magdan Aviation has demonstrated, fully.
How does this lead to the termination of the appointment of Yao Kwakwa, the managing director?
Now, so with all this background, I find it very hard to believe that anybody would believe that Mr. Yao Kwakwa has been relieved of his position because he was doing the right thing. Now, the ministry stood behind Mr. Kwakwa, the former MD, and to ensure that the right thing is done. As a matter of fact, even Magdan had to come and apologize to the minister for going ahead to do the inauguration, even though Ghana Airport Company had put a stop to it. So there's no basis for that, conclusion that Mr. Yao Kwakwa has been relieved of his position because of what happened at the airport. It's completely false.
Hold on for me. It's difficult for the public to believe that there's clearly no connection to this, and particularly the way he was removed. At a time when he was leading members of parliament, to satisfy themselves of what had gone on, then he's told by the media that he has been removed. Yes, Sam George.
Something. I've listened to my colleague Hassan speak on this matter, and he's giving all the background, so there's no need to go into the background.
That's right.
Let's ask ourselves, why was Mr. Kwakwa sacked? Did it have anything to do with the terminal or Macdan? Or did it have anything to do with other things? Look, Samson.
I think I've answered that. It has nothing
Samson.
to do with it.
Well, that's your claim.
So what do you do?
We hear a lot of things in this town. And it's important that we realize that at times, things may not appear as they seem until you dig below or beneath. As far as I'm aware, and I know that the committee, parliamentary committee, actually was with Hassan at the airport. They had invited the minister and they had gone there to see everything that needs to be put in place in the terminal for its, in terms of security, what they call the SOPs, have been met. Now, someone will ask that, is this a power tussle between business interests? Is that why Kwakwa has become the pawn in a battle between two elephants? Because look, Honorable Hassan Dampuli, people who are in the aviation space know that today, private jets are landing in Ghana's airports. They are being serviced not through the regular Terminal 3 that me and you use. They are being serviced through CIP. Does this Terminal 1 pose an existential business threat to CIP? And who are the individuals behind CIP? And is it a tussle between Macdan and the beneficial owners of the CIP that has led to Mr. Kwakwa being the sacrificial lamb? These are the questions you need to be frankly answering to the Ghanaian people and letting us know. Because look, one day, the truth will be known publicly. But I'm saying to you that the business interests behind the CIP at Terminal 3, which is currently servicing the private jet industry, and the emerging Macdan private jet lounge at Terminal 1, Mr. Kwakwa is the unfortunate victim of power play between two elephants. And let's call a spade in this country. If we want to be honest with each other, there's no need to beat around the bush. I can appreciate your difficulty with being able to state clearly because the termination letter said it was on the instructions of the president. Now, we are hearing roundabout that, oh, the president has not terminated. The president has asked the board to consider the termination as a shareholder. Was that the content of the letter? Was that what the letter said? This post facto rationalization and realizing that people who may have had interest have used the name of the president or used the president's office to act in ways that may not even sit with good corporate governance. And now they are rerouting it through the board. I mean, it's all make it's not neat. You wanted to get rid of somebody, you should have done it in a tidier manner. Simple.
Kofi, your colleague and good friend, Bright Simmons, had asked a question. Is it a bold business enterprise or state capture? What do you think will lead to such a contemplation?
Pride spoke the mind of all discerning people. And the question is, we know Macdan. I know of Macdan. And let me be clear. Macdan is one of the emerging or one of the indigenous businessmen who has emerged as the strongest and somebody we are all proud of, we would want to grow. But I can tell you that I have had people come to me and report Macdan on certain attitudes and certain actions he's taking, which people felt were a bit untoward, and they felt that he had some powers and some people behind him and so this and that. We didn't take any action. In fact, we can't take any action on that. We keep those things in our mind. But the point is this: we respect that Macdan is an emerging or has emerged as a strong business person. And to that effect, therefore, there will be these kinds of boundary issues where people rub against each other. Some will hate him, some will love him. But the first thing is that it is a good thing that we get people like Macdan, indigenous businessmen, rise up and take advantage of the opportunities within this country. Now, is it therefore bold business on his side? Yes, it is. And will there be friction? Yes, there will be. But that is why you have governments and authorities and regulators. In this particular Macdan issue, there's a lot of detail. I have seen a lot of documentation. And let me sum it up this way. Maybe we'll get time to speak about the other details. It was the job of the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority,
which has to make sure that Kotoka International Airport is properly internationally rated. It was their job to make sure that the Ghana Airport Company does not go into arrangements that compromise the airport. All right, that's number one. Now, clearly, the Civil Aviation Authority has not been able to do that. The Ghana Airport Company having the right to manage persons like McDan, who also have the right to do business in their own country and to prosper thereof, clearly lost track. And let me explain. McDan cannot get up as a businessman and go and start construction at an airport that is internationally rated. He's a businessman. He doesn't have time. He wants his things to be done quickly. I will totally give him a lot of room for that. It is for airport company to keep track of his activities. I have seen documents, Gantt charts about dates and times, list of people who will access places, what will be done, etc. It is the Ghana Airport Company that should have done that under the supervision of Ghana Civil Aviation Authority. If they didn't do it and McDan proceeded, I will not fault McDan. So it is bold business, but bold business everywhere, like mining, wherever you find it. Even Amazon now is having problems distributing, things. They will come into conflict with governments and regulation, but that is why the law is behind the regulator. In this particular case, the regulators failed. Ghana Airport Company failed. Ghana Civil Aviation failed, to the extent that we are hearing that it is when he said he was going to inaugurate that they found out that certain things were untoward. Means all the senior executives that should be let go of their duties, because they basically gave a situation where somebody pursuing his legitimate business and seeking to respect the law. I have seen the effort he made to respect the law, was able to go ahead and breach the security of the Kotoka International Airport. You shouldn't keep a job if you are doing that, because if Kotoka is downgraded, more people will lose their jobs. If somebody sneaks in and plants a bomb on some plane because of some construction that was going on, the whole Ghana will gain international reputation for the wrong reasons. So in short, McDan is doing his legitimate business. I have seen evidence that he made the effort to comply. I don't see how he would have forced his way and disrespected everybody and the authorities. I think this was a failure of the government system, specifically Civil Aviation Authority and Airports Company, to properly monitor this arrangement. How difficult is it to monitor just one construction project going on? And by the way, this is a good project. I know there are other people there who are doing this business, and I know what Sam George is talking about. We all have the details. Competition is a good thing. So it comes back again to Civil Aviation Authority and Airports Company that they should foster that competition, not allow one player to have so much power as to do some of the things that we are hearing. We will discount the rumors, but the fundamental issue is that in this particular issue, it is Civil Aviation that lost track. It is Ghana Airports Company that failed. And I don't think McDan should be blamed. If he made a mistake, well, correct him, but let that business go on. We can't afford to be cutting our own entrepreneurs down every time.
Right. So Hassan, the letter from the Transport Minister clearly was directed to the board chairman of the Ghana Airport Company. And the instruction was that the president, let me just read it, it's really very short. It says, His Excellency, the President of the Republic, per letter number so and so, dated 31st January 2022, has directed that the appointment of Mr. Yao Kwakwa as Managing Director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited be terminated. In this regard, kindly take the necessary steps to give effect to the directive. So it's very clear that the directive was to the board to terminate his appointment. The question that keeps coming up that the answers don't appear clear enough are when you say McDan breached some rules or anything, what were the exact, breaches that he committed?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me take you back to the letter you just read. And McDan raised, my brother Sam George raised issues about the content of the letter.
That's why I read it. That's why I read it.
Now, Samson, you are a lawyer. My good friend Kofi Bentil is a lawyer. What is wrong with that letter in terms of, distortion of any corporate arrangements? As the sole shareholder, government has directed that the board relieves the managing director of his position as the managing director. What is wrong with that one? Under the Companies Act, the board has the capacity to do that, to remove the MD as the managing director, not as a director. But there's a procedure you have to go through to remove a director. Now, if the director doesn't want to go through all that procedure, he or she can just simply resign and then forget about the whole process. Because inevitably, you will still get to the point where you'll be asked to move as a director. So as the managing director, the board has the capacity, as directed by the shareholder, to go through the process. So that issue regarding whether or not some corporate governance structures procedures have been sidestepped is neither here nor there.
Yeah. So now, we have just some 2 minutes. Can you go straight to
Secondly, the issue regarding whether or not there is a tussle between CIP and McDan is also neither here nor there.
Okay.
The CIP is open to business class passengers, economy class passengers, first class passengers, jet operators, and any other person who is using the airport. It's your choice, you have to go and pay. And mind you, the CIP is under the auspices of the national security. All right, so anybody can go to the CIP.
It's owned by a private individual.
The jet, it is not owned by a private individual.
It's run
Point
by...
of correction.
Come on.
It is not owned by a private individual.
You want us to put out the names of those...
Show me any document that evidence.
You want us to put out the names of the people who have the beneficial interest? Who runs it? Who is running it? Who is running it?
That is wrong.
Who is running CIP?
Now, Magdan Jet Terminal
is solely
for the use of jet operators.
Come on.
It's solely for the use of jet operators. So how is this, in a way, trying to monopolize the business? They are doing two separate businesses.
No.
You see what I mean? So nobody can, on the basis of the decision to terminate the MD's appointment, say that it is because of Magdan there's some power play. Power play between who and who. Now, if there was power play, then Magdan's inauguration of the jet terminal wouldn't have been stopped. He would have been asked to just proceed just as if nothing has happened. No. Okay. But he was in breach of certain procedures. The ministry was in support. The entire government machinery was in support of the suspension of the operation.
Okay,
of
thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Hassan. Thank you very much, Hassan Tampuli. This all time will allow us. My guests have been Hassan Tampuli, Hassan Suleiman Tampuli is MP Gushon and Deputy Minister for Transport. Samuel Nete George is MP Ningo Pram constituency, and Kofi Bentel is lawyer and Senior Vice President Imani Africa. Dr. Bright Opong Afum is lecturer mining and environmental consultant, University of Mines and Technology. You heard Samuel Abujinapo, MP Damongo and Minister Lands and Natural Resources. Also, you heard from Gary Nimako Mafo, who is member Legal and Constitutional Committee of the New Patriotic Party. We also had DCOP Kwesi Ofori, who is the Director of Public Affairs at the Ghana Police Service on the coup matter. My outfit is by Habel Scooter. Habel Scooter, you can find them at Adringano Gate, East Legon, and the number to call is 0200 84 1988. 0200 84 1988. I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. Have a good afternoon, and thank you all so very much for your company.